If you drink this every single day and you're over 50, I need you to hear this before your next sip. My name is Dr. Nathan Wells. I'm a board-certified internal medicine physician with more than 20 years of clinical experience focused on patients in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. I see the consequences of this particular habit in my practice more than almost any other, and what makes it dangerous is how quietly it works. No dramatic warning signs, no sudden alarm, just a slow, silent erosion happening inside you, year after year, while you go about your day believing everything is fine. According to the National Kidney Foundation, more than 37 million Americans are living with chronic kidney disease right now, and the majority of them have no idea. The kidneys don't have pain receptors the way your back or your knee does. By the time you feel something, by the time a symptom forces you into my office, a meaningful portion of kidney function is already gone. That's not a small problem. That's a structural change that does not reverse. Here's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to name the drink. I'm going to explain exactly what's happening inside your kidney when you consume it regularly. And then I'm going to show you 2 other everyday habits that most people combine with this drink, completely without knowing it, that make the damage dramatically worse. One of them is sold at every pharmacy in the country without a prescription. The other is something millions of people are actively taking because they believe it's protecting them. That second one is what stops people cold when I explain it in the office. If you share this video with someone before the end, share it with someone over 60 who manages any kind of chronic pain. The combination I'm about to describe is something I see constantly, and most of those patients had no idea it was a problem. Before I go further, everything I share here is education, not a personal diagnosis. Your own doctor knows your full history, your labs, your medications, and they're the right person to act on any of this with you. What I can do is make sure you walk into that conversation informed. Here's what the kidney actually does, because most people have only a vague sense of it, and that vagueness is exactly why this damage goes unnoticed for so long. Think of your kidneys as the most sophisticated water treatment facility you've ever seen, running 24 hours a day, filtering about 200 liters of blood every single day, pulling out waste, balancing your fluids, regulating your blood pressure, managing your mineral levels, producing hormones your bones and blood cells depend on. 2 fist-sized organs sitting quietly behind your lower back, doing all of that without complaint, until they can't anymore. What makes kidney damage different from most injuries is this. Kidney tissue, once destroyed, does not come back. A broken bone heals. The kidney doesn't work that way. The healthy filtering units, called nephrons, around 1 million per kidney, they compensate for a while. They work harder, they pick up the slack. So your lab numbers can look relatively normal even when you've already lost 30 or 40% of function. That's the trap. That's how people come in feeling completely fine and leave with a diagnosis that changes their life. The drink at the center of this conversation is soda, specifically dark sodas, cola. Most people, when they hear that, assume we're talking about sugar. Sugar matters, but sugar is not the primary mechanism of kidney damage here. The compound doing the most direct harm when you drink cola regularly is something called phosphoric acid. That's what gives cola its sharp, slightly tangy bite. It's what separates a Coke from a Sprite. It's added intentionally during manufacturing, and it is one of the most kidney-hostile compounds in the modern diet. Here's what it does inside your body. Your kidneys are responsible for clearing excess phosphorus from the blood. In a healthy young person, they handle this without issue. But as we age, kidney filtration naturally slows, a measure called GFR, or glomerular filtration rate. Think of GFR as the speed setting on that water treatment plant. In your 30s, it runs at full capacity. By the time you're 65, it's often running at 60 or 70%, even without any disease. That's just biology. When you pour phosphoric acid into a system already running below capacity, you create a bottleneck. The kidneys struggle to clear the phosphorus load. Excess phosphorus pulls calcium out of the bones, triggers calcification in blood vessel walls, and creates a chemical environment that accelerates scarring inside the kidney, right in the tissue responsible for filtration. A 2013 study in the Clinical Journal of the American Society of Nephrology found that drinking 2 or more colas per day was associated with a significantly higher risk of chronic kidney disease, independent of sugar, independent of weight, independent of diabetes. 2 cans per day, not 2 liters. 2 cans. I want to tell you about a patient of mine. I'll call her Margaret, 67 years old, retired teacher. Margaret came in for a routine physical. She felt good. She walked every morning, watched her diet, managed her blood pressure with 1 medication. When her labs came back, her GFR had dropped 18 points since her blood work 3 years earlier. That's a steep decline for that time frame. When we sat down and went through her habits, she told me she'd been drinking 2 to 3 cans of Diet Cola every single day for the better part of 20 years. She chose diet because she was watching her sugar. She thought that was the safer choice. And for blood sugar, she wasn't wrong. But Diet Cola contains the same phosphoric acid as regular cola. The acid does not go away when you remove the sugar. Margaret's kidneys had been managing that phosphorus load for 2 decades, quietly, without complaint, until they couldn't anymore. We replaced most of her daily cola with water and plain sparkling water, switched her blood pressure medication to one with a more kidney-protective profile, and scheduled labs every 6 months. Her GFR stabilized completely. It didn't recover. Kidney damage doesn't work that way, but it stopped declining. For Margaret, stopping the slide was the win. She asked me at her 6-month visit why nobody had ever told her this. I didn't have a good answer for her, so I'm telling you now. Here's where I need you to stay with me, because what I'm about to describe is the combination that takes a manageable situation and turns it into something serious. And it involves something sitting in your medicine cabinet right now: NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, ibuprofen, naproxen, sold as Advil, Motrin, Aleve. Enormously useful medications in the right context. But in adults over 60, taking them frequently or combining them with even mild dehydration creates a specific, well-documented pattern of kidney injury. Here's the mechanism. Your kidneys depend on molecules called prostaglandins to regulate blood flow into the filtering units. Prostaglandins act like the traffic controllers of kidney circulation. When your blood pressure drops or your fluid volume is low, they dilate the blood vessels feeding the kidney to keep filtration running. NSAIDs block prostaglandin production. That's exactly why they reduce inflammation and relieve pain. But when that chemical pathway is blocked in the kidney, the organ loses the mechanism it uses to protect itself under stress. Take an NSAID when you're fully hydrated and otherwise healthy. The kidney manages. Take one after you've spent a summer afternoon working in the yard, sweating, not drinking enough water, and blood flow to the kidney drops hard. The filtration units are starved of supply. If that happens once, the kidney recovers. If it happens most days for months and years, which it does for many people managing chronic knee pain, back pain, hip pain, the damage accumulates. The American Geriatric Society lists regular NSAID use as one of the highest risk medication habits in adults over 65, specifically because of this kidney mechanism. And yet, because these medications don't require a prescription, patients frequently don't think to mention them. I'll ask someone what medications they're taking, they'll list everything in their pill organizer, and then at the end I'll say, "Anything over the counter?" And that's when I hear, "Oh, I take ibuprofen most days for my knee." Most days for my knee. That's a prescription-level frequency of use with zero monitoring attached to it. Now, I mentioned at the very beginning of this video that one of these habits involves something that people are taking specifically because they believe it's protecting them. This is it, and it's not the ibuprofen. Vitamin C. Specifically, high-dose vitamin C supplementation. Doses of 1,000 milligrams per day or higher, which has become enormously common in wellness culture, especially since the pandemic, when millions of people started taking everything they could find marketed as immune support. Vitamin C is metabolized in the body into a compound called oxalate. At reasonable doses, the kidneys handle this without issue. But when you're consistently taking very high doses and you're over 60 with a filtration rate already naturally lower, the kidneys are excreting a chronically elevated oxalate load. Oxalate is the primary building block of the most common type of kidney stone. Beyond stones, chronically high urinary oxalate damages the tubules of the kidney, the fine channels that decide what stays in your body and what gets expelled. A 2016 paper published in JAMA Internal Medicine found that high-dose vitamin C supplementation was associated with a doubling of kidney stone risk and a meaningful acceleration of kidney function decline in people with any pre-existing kidney issues. Here's what makes this so hard to accept. The patients taking 2,000 milligrams of vitamin C every morning are often the most health-conscious people in my entire practice. They exercise, they eat well, they read labels, they're trying to stay ahead of every threat. The supplement industry told them more is better, that if 90 milligrams meets the daily requirement, 2,000 milligrams must be armor. That is not how human biology works. The metabolic cost of processing very large quantities of even a water-soluble vitamin falls directly on the kidneys. And if those kidneys are already running at reduced capacity because of age, the cost is higher than most people realize. I had a patient, I'll call him Gerald, 72, retired contractor, one of the most conscientious men I've ever had in my practice. He brought a handwritten list of every supplement he took to every single appointment. I counted 19 items. One of them was 3,000 milligrams of vitamin C daily because he'd read it protected his immune system. Gerald also had a history of 2 kidney stones and a GFR that had been trending downward for 4 consecutive years. When I explained what high-dose vitamin C was doing inside his kidneys specifically, he was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "I thought I was doing everything right." That sentence has stayed with me. He was doing everything right, by the information he had. The information was incomplete. We stopped the high-dose supplement, replaced it with a more moderate amount, focused on consistent hydration, and his GFR stopped declining within a year. Gerald's kidneys didn't recover what they'd already lost, but they stopped losing more. For a 72-year-old man, that distinction is not small. That is the difference between a stable life and dialysis. Here's what to do with everything I've told you. 4 things, concrete and specific, that you can begin this week. First, if you're a regular cola drinker, the swap to make is not from regular to diet. It's from cola to lemon-lime soda, or better, to plain sparkling water. Lemon-lime sodas contain no phosphoric acid. That single change eliminates the primary driver of the soda-kidney connection. You keep the carbonation if that's what you enjoy. You lose the compound doing the damage. Second, treat your over-the-counter pain reliever the way you'd treat a prescription. Read the label. Take the lowest effective dose for the shortest time that manages your pain. If you're reaching for ibuprofen or naproxen most days, that is not a medication routine. That is a pain management problem that deserves a real conversation with your physician. Kidney-safer alternatives exist. Topical NSAIDs, acetaminophen-based options, specific prescription medications with proper monitoring. But you have to name the frequency first, honestly, to the person who can help you. Third, the next time you see your doctor, don't just say, "I take vitamins." Tell them what supplement, what dose, how often. A physician who knows you're taking 2,000 milligrams of vitamin C and can look at your kidney labs alongside that information will give you a completely different recommendation than one who assumes you're taking a standard multivitamin. And fourth, ask your doctor to include a kidney function panel in your next blood draw if they haven't run one recently, GFR and creatinine, and learn those numbers. A GFR above 90 means your kidneys are functioning well. Between 60 and 89, the habits in this video matter more than you might think. Below 60 is where we start building a structured management plan together. The number is not a verdict. It's a map. A map is only useful if you're willing to look at it. I want to come back to Gerald one more time. At his last appointment, he brought his handwritten supplement list again. 14 items now, down from 19. He'd done his own research between visits, crossed off the ones he couldn't find good evidence for, and cut his vitamin C down to 250 milligrams. He told me the list used to feel like insurance. Now, he said, it felt like strategy. That shift, from fear-based accumulation to informed, specific choices, is exactly what I want you to leave this video with. Not anxiety about everything you've been doing wrong, not a dramatic overhaul of your entire life tonight. Just this. You now have information that most people your age don't have. And information, acted on specifically and consistently, is how you protect the kidney function that is still there to be protected. Your kidneys have never asked you for a single thing. They've been filtering, balancing, and protecting you every day without complaint. Give them this much in return. I'm Dr. Nathan Wells. Stay aware, stay proactive, and take care of yourself. I'll see you in the next one.